Hey, you ever been to Chancellor Park? That's where I live. My name is Tavin Dillard, and I live in a trailer park called Chancellor Park, and I mow lawns. I'd like to introduce you to my town. I've been making YouTube's videos since about 2006, and then I've transitioned over to other platforms like the TikToks and the whatnot. But here on this podcast, I'd like to clue you into what's going on with me here lately. And this is like the pre-introduction. Now I'm going to send it off to myself for the real introduction. I'm glad you joined me. Bink, bink. Well, welcome to the Tavin Dillard podcast, y'all guys. Season 1, episode 12. I hope y'all are doing good, having a good week. You know what I was thinking about today was a bologna sandwich. The thing about it is, I guess, I don't know what you think about bologna sandwiches, but I kind of think about them in the summertime. I don't know why, or the spring. But I was like, what's wrong with a winter bologna sandwich? There ain't nothing wrong with a winter bologna sandwich. I mean, you need basically 3 ingredients. Now, this is going to cause some fights, so I understand that before I even say this. But white bread, bologna, depending on how hungry you are, you might double up on that bologna. You ain't got to, though. Slice of American cheese. Okay, did I say 3 ingredients? I meant 4. Because you got to have the cheese, the bologna, the white bread. That's 3 already. And then mayonnaise. And that's where people driving in their car and they jerked it to the side of the road just now to mustard people. I know people fight violently for their mustard bologna sandwiches. Hey, it's more for you. I'm a mayo guy on my bologna sandwiches and cheese, white bread. And then you cut it diagonal, so you got 2 triangles. Whew. Boy, and you can get crazy. You put barbecue chip on there. That's the thing about it. There's a few ways to do that thing, and I know that, you know that. I was just telling you, friend to friend, podcast listener to podcast guy, or whatever you call me right now, podcast talker, is that I was thinking about that today. Thinking about a good old bologna sandwich. I don't know what you've been thinking about, but I'll tell you right now, if you just joining me, I don't talk about bologna sandwiches every week, and the thing about it is, if you ain't caught up, take a minute and get back there to other episodes, and we'll be here waiting on you. We on episode 12, like I said, of the first season. There's 14 episodes in the first season, except there's going to be another one. There's going to be like a bonus episode, like a 1-hour Christmas special coming out on December 22nd. Mark your calendar, and I hope you got an hour that day. I say it's an hour. It's not like I recorded it yet where I know like I'm going to talk for exactly an hour, but I can tell you right now, that's the plan. That's the plan. There's a lot going on in town, and you can't cover it in a normal episode. I don't know if I'll get to everything, but I like to get to the highlights. I'd like to think we get into the highlights like that away. Anyhow, I have been walking y'all through the softball season, and I got some news. Okay? Team Burger Shed, I got some news. What's going on with the team, Tavin? Well, friends, here's the deal. I will say this first. We are hot right now. As a team, clicking on all cylinders, we hitting the ball, we catching the ball, we throwing the ball, we scoring across the home plates more runs than the other team. Kind of. On a lot of days. On a few days. Enough days to where people say you ain't horrible. At least like that way. I mean, we won 4 games now. And we lost 5. And we tied 1. But hold on to your sweat britches, because I got some news for you. Y'all guys, I'm so excited. I'm like a squirrel in a bag of hot fries right now. But before I jump headfirst into that, like me at the city pool on opening day every year, let me say, if you have been listening and you like listening to this podcast, can you rate this podcast on them places where you rate a podcast? Like on the iTunes, they 98 ratings right now. We 2 away from 100 ratings, and then more comments are coming. Them word reviews where people leave words like, hey, I really like your saying kind of thing. That helps. I mean, it's out there for free, the podcast, but the way you can let me know that it's working for you is a comment, or like a review, like where you give it stars kind of thing. So I appreciate that. If you got a few minutes, or I don't even know if it takes a few minutes to do that. Might just be a couple seconds. Anyways, that's a big help, mine. And I should appreciate it, if you do that. Okay, so why am I so excited? You asking? Well, here's the deal. 2 weeks ago, we lost to a team that brought in a ringer from out of town. You might have remembered that. Maybe you don't. So, I mean, if you didn't, now you do. And I know I said at the time I wasn't going to bring it up no more, and I wasn't going to bring it up no more. But there's news about that game. So how do I not talk about the new news without bringing up the old news? That's what I'm wondering. And that's just science, probably, like how you going to do that. Well, here's the deal. Chlorine Phillips' son, Gilbert, who had played backup catcher one year at a junior college in the Ozark and has beat up an adult bull moose, played on this other team. He ain't never been on a team before, but he was visiting from out of town, and he just hopped on there for a game, and he whooped our team. Almost single-handedly, pretty much felt like. Morton Dwidell refused to pitch because he said it wasn't fair. They got in our heads bringing in Gilbert like that, and anyhow, we lost that one 7-2. So when I tell you that we lost 5 games, I actually have to correct that this week. We only lost 4 now because Gilbert disqualified them for that game by playing in it. So their team lost a win, and we lost a loss. I mean, if there's anything you want to be a loser at, it's losses. We lost a loss. So if you do the math and you keeping track of everything, we are now 4, 4, and 1. That ain't a bad place to be. So where does that leave us? Well, here's the deal. I can't hardly stand it. The way the math work out on this season is that because we only lost in 4 games, just by taking away that loss, mathematically, it puts us in the playoffs. So before the game even starts tonight, we already in the playoffs. Now that leads us to a whole new situation, which is how we going to play this game coming up in a few minutes. So we found out before the game, we already in the playoffs. So that can mess with your mindset a little bit. Maybe better, maybe worse, because what happens is now you're thinking differently. Like if you go into the donut store for an apple frittler and then you get there and the frittler tray's empty, then you got a decision to make. You're going to go without that frittler that was the size of a pillow. You're going to take back to the trailer, pop it on a paper plate with some butter on top for 9 seconds and eat it with a fork like a sit-down meal. But you can't. So you're going to go without that and leave with nothing? Or you're going to switch your focus to whatever they got left in that donut case, which may be the glazed twist or chocolate bar or the Long John, some folks call it, because even good plans can interrupt your day. Ain't that right? I mean, it's a good interruption because they good plans, but they interruptions. We made the playoffs, but we can't just throw caution to the wind. Like we could lose today and still be going to the playoffs. But that's the deal. One time, Ricky Don Pearson, he's a volunteer firefighter, had to help Candy Delroy, not Cindy. Candy's the little 8-year-old gal. He had to help her off a roof because it wasn't her house because she thought she seen a personal-sized pizza on the roof. One of them little ones that feed like one person, a little circle, pizzas are circles most of the time. So she got on that roof, and it turned out it was about 3/4 of a frittler. But she couldn't get down once she got up there. I reckon Candy, like I said, she's about 8 years old, and she caught multiple crows in the trailer park. I mean, she caught full-grown adult. I mean, she put a grown crow to shame. They get so embarrassed when Candy Delroy's got both hands around a adult crow body, and they just shaking their head and their little beaks just downward facing toward the ground like, how in the world did I let this happen? But she did that. Apparently she can't get off the roof of a house, but she can catch an adult crow. Because somehow she got up there, though. Trying to think she was going to get a little personal pizza. Ended up with 3/4 of a frittler. And I guess that's a little disappointing. I guess it's one of those things like if you ever drank a glass of milk, but you thought it was orange juice, and just the shock of it all. She get up there thinking she may, I guess, going to sink into some pepperoni. And she look at that thing, and that's a frittler, 3/4. I don't know if it was bite out of, like somebody bit it. Or like, somebody throwed it up there and some crows got after part of it. I don't know what happened. I don't know the answer. There's way more questions here with Candy Delroy being on the roof after a personal pizza. It turned out to be a frittler than there are answers. But she is up there. And that's when her folks realized she probably needed glasses anyhow. So there's some silver lining to this because they figured out, I don't think her eyes are that good. And they're like, yeah, I think you're right. I think something's going on there. She's Chet Delroy's grandbaby. If you know Chet. Anyway, she got to keep that frittler, which I personally thought was kind of gross. Crow. I said a crow could have licked that thing, could have pooped on it too, though. You don't know what a crow could do. You leave something out on the roof in the elements, and anything's liable to get on it. any kind of substance that just kind of from any animal that fly by or just get blowed in the wind. So anyhow, they let Candy keep that, and she wanted to, which all of that right there is gross. That anything falling under the umbrella of what I just said right now, to me, is gross. Probably would have been poetic justice though if a crow did something to that frittler, I suppose, since Candy's caught so many of them. The point is, you don't want to get sidetracked. I highly doubt that Candy was walking through neighborhoods looking for personal-sized pizzas on the roofs. Nope. Something caught her eye, and off she went. You can't do that. Well, none of us thought about that before the game. We was just excited. Nobody thought, hey, if they got that math wrong and we actually have to win tonight, what are we going to do? None of that crossed our minds. We just figured, we on our way to a big old party. In fact, what crossed Myron Curtis's mind was that he should go get nachos at the concession stand with extra jalapenos before the game. Wait, Tavin, was that a mistake? Did you mean he got it after the game, right? After y'all played the game, not before the game? No. Myron Curtis went to the concession stand before the game, and he got nachos, but not just regular nachos. He got jalapenos, not just the normal about jalapenos. He got extra jalapenos before the game. His girlfriend, Mary Beth Tucker, works that snack stand on game nights, and she was serving the nachos tonight. It's never enough just to have some hot dogs, snow cones, and Skittles with her. Nope, she's trying new stuff out like her customers is picky, and we ain't. We at the softball fields. We walk up there hungry, and we overpaying for anything there, and whatever you got, we ready to choose. We ain't like, hey, you got any hot nacho cheese back there? She done tried s'mores. She tried them hot dinner rolls, softer than a baby angel's legs. I don't know. I can't even keep track of the list, but it's like, quit it, Mary Beth. Why are you trying to outshine all the concession stands in the world, and by doing that, you end up wrecking our concession stand. This is the second concession stand this season because the first one burnt down. She brought a propane tank in there and everything. Y'all know that story. So she brought in a crock pot of cheese, and she was ladling that thing up. I have no idea why she didn't see a problem with serving Myron them jalapeno nachos before the game, but apparently that was not on her radar. And it should have been on Myron's. I just don't know. I think it was the news about we in the playoffs, and I guess he wanted to start the party early. But, when you do that, consequences. So we all kind of giddy. It wasn't just Myron leading up to game time. And speaking of leading, guess who was batting leadoff tonight? Bingo. First pitch I got up there swinging, fouled one hard off my leg. It stung. Kind of walked a little lap, circled back to home plate. Next pitch, I'm locked in, and it shows when I make soft contact to shallow outfield. And they got their second baseman out there. He picked that thing up, and he tried and throw me out from out there. I overran the bag, and he hit me in the back with the ball, and that kind of stung too. So we 2 pitches into the game. One off my leg, one into shallow outfield. I'm on first base. And I've been hitting the back. So basically 2 pitches, and both of them have hit me eventually. The first one I fouled off. The second one, the outfielder, once he retrieved it, he throwed it and got me in the back. But I'm on base, and when I'm on base, one thing you might not know about me is I steal the next one. I'm a base stealing machine. But my leg was throbbing, because I'd fouled that one off my shin. And I steady feeling it. A lot of times in the middle of the action, you ain't there. But I'd had a minute just to kind of rest on first base there, and I was thinking, boy, that thing hurting. So I decided to stay put on that first pitch that came to Mort Dwidell. He was batting after me, and he connected on what would have been a triple for most folks, but he just made it to first. I made it home though. So I was on my bad shin, but I was hustling around them bases, and Mort Dwidell don't hustle for much. Truth be told, maybe a corn dog or something like that, but he ain't going to run for, he got to clear that fence, and he'll eventually make it home, on a home run trot, or he just get to first base. So he was off to the races, or we was both off to the races, you might say. I made it home. He made it to the first base bag. And then Myron Curtis, for being able to put away so much food, he got tender guts. And them nachos, they hit him pretty hard between the second and the third innings. And he shuffled over to that park bathroom, just clenched up, just didn't want to drop nothing, didn't want to make a mess. You got the whole town out, and people see that, they going to be talking about it. It ain't something you're going to live down. It just ain't something you're going to live down. You mess your britches at the softball fields as an adult. Kids too, a memory's a memory, but I mean, the kids that they a little more, people more forgiving because like, oh well, he just learning how to control himself. But Myron, they ain't no excuses, buddy. So he's hoping he don't put on a show before he gets there. And Myron's the kind of guy that if he ain't feeling well, he wants the whole world to know. People like that. You can't suffer in silence kind of thing. Like, let's let the world know. And them park bathrooms, they echo. They got them concrete floors in there and just kind of cinder block, kind of thing. So hearing it was pretty gross, but it might have worked in our favor, just kind of maybe getting in the other team's head. And we needed all the help we could get because we were down a player from the 3rd to the 5th inning because Myron was in the toilet. We ain't got no subs. One thing about our team, if somebody's down, I mean, Myron's been benched this year for just having his head in the clouds and not being with it. Brody Childers has missed, trying to sell his sister-in-law's Dodge Neon out in the parking lot instead of playing the game with us. So when that happens, we ain't got no substitute. We ain't got somebody on the bench. Okay, bring in so-and-so. There ain't nobody to bring in. We just down a player. So for 2 innings tonight, and it wasn't like nobody didn't know where Myron was. We all heard him for 2 innings straight, just groaning and just working out them issues right there in that park bathroom kind of thing. So what we did, basically, we just had 2 outfielders in the 3rd inning. And then what we did, we pulled Cody Briggs from behind the plate. That's Ricky Briggs' brother. Ricky Briggs is a trash man in town. He got some stories. Boy, Ricky got some stories. Anyways, Cody pulled him from behind the plate and put him in center field. And we replayed the 4th and 5th innings without a catcher. So, I mean, we didn't play him twice. But when we did the last 2 innings there, when Myron was still in the toilet, we didn't have no catcher. And that was just that. A lot of them guys are making contact first pitch. There ain't a lot of people working full counts, in adult softball league. But it was a little bit of a hassle. The umpire was kind of helping out a little bit. So they scored a few after we scored a couple. So it was like 3-2 in the 3rd inning. But Rusty Tidwell, per usual, locked in. He ended up going 4 for 5 with 2 homers. We got Myron back in the bottom of the 5th. He just looked a little fatigued. And he told us in the dugout, I can't run, y'all. I'll lose my bowels. That's the way he said it to us. And nobody... when you hear something like that, sometimes you want to say, what'd you say? But all of us had what you might call the wherewithal not to say, what'd you say, Myron? We just figured, we get it. I mean, we done heard you for 2 innings. Myron, but I did have to ask him, why in the world are you having jalapeno nachos, extra jalapenos, before our last regular season game? And I know Mary Beth gave you extra, so it wasn't even a standard amount you're supposed to get. But anyways, he did still play, but he was like quarter speed, which was like a hair better than having a folding chair on the team. I mean, we was rooting to win, but we was also rooting for Myron not to mess his britches trying to get to first base. Well, most of us. Rusty Tidwell can have a sick sense of humor sometimes. That's just how he is. Let me just tell you this, though. By the end of the game, it's 9-7. Bud's Burger shed. Now we 4-4-1. And we headed to the playoffs. Rusty Tidwell brought some inspired Kit Kats that his sister-in-law got from her work, so we was feeling pretty good. And even after Myron's nacho bout, he reached into that bag Rusty brought and got himself a couple of them Kit Kats. He said that's for the ride home. Well, he was on his moped, and I could just imagine him trying to tear into one of them while he's trying to steer and wobbling and then laying that moped down. I mean, you think, okay, Myron, you're going to learn your lesson about one thing, then you get into another lesson you need to learn, but I just told him, just wait till you get home, Myron. It ain't that big a rush. Them Kit Kats already expired kind of thing. So I don't know. And I told Mary Beth Tucker not to bring them jalapenos next week to the concession stand. We can't take no chances. So that's where we are. I think I said we was 4-4-1 already. Now we 4-4-1. That's regular season's over. We won 4 games. We lost 4 games after tonight because they took away the Gilbert loss. And now, because of our 9-7 win, we 4-4. There's a lot to keep track of, I know. It's confusing. But we 4-4-1. That's where we at. And the season, regular season's what you call over. But we head into the playoffs, as you may have heard. So that's that. I mean, I don't know who we play in first in the playoffs, but I do know that we are in the playoffs, and that is a real good thing. I mean, you think how this season started out, shirts and skins, losing all the time. We like the punching bag of the adult softball league. Everybody thought they could just roll over on us. Well, now we won as many as we lost, and we tied one. That's real good. I'll tell you what. I mean, I feel like I earned a bologna sandwich, a winter bologna sandwich. Late fall, you know what I mean? White bread, bologna, cheese, mayonnaise, cut it diagonal. Boy, just bask in the glow of victory. If you need a Team Burger Shed shirt 2021, check the link in the show notes. It'll take you to all my gear, a lot of Burger Shed gear, but that's the one that's got our team roster on the back. Might make a good Christmas gift. I also got personal greetings where I just wish folks Merry Christmas. If you got a family or friend that you want a greeting from me, I can do that. Video greeting. And I'll put that link in the show notes too. Appreciate y'all tuning in. And like I said, we got a couple more episodes of this first season of the Tavin Dillard podcast. And then we got the Christmas episode, a very special Christmas episode coming up on December 22nd. So if you take the time to rate, the podcast and share it with folks, I sure appreciate it. And appreciate you hanging on with the journey. It's been a roller coaster, is why I'd say, with the podcast this season, the softball season. But we have made it to what you would call the playoffs. In fact, that's what everybody calls them. We in the playoffs. Sure appreciate you tuning in to this podcast. It's like a radio show because you listen. If you're enjoying it, like I said, you can let other folks know. I got some stretching out to do before next week. And again, you can check me out. Check the link in them show notes for what I got going on. You can always text me, 501-322-6249. I'll put my number in the show notes too. And hey, if you ain't fouled a softball off your shin today or piled on the jalapenos before you had to go do some rigorous activity like running around a softball field, you're doing pretty good. Hey, learn from me. Learn from Myron. You ain't got to mess up yourself like that away. And I'd give it another day. If you're around the park in town, you need to go to the bathroom, and I'd give it another day to air out. Myron tore that thing up. Made a couple kids cry just from what they heard, He like I said, he don't suffer alone. He brought in the whole park kind of thing. All right, y'all guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weeks. Always a pleasure to connect with you here on the Tavin Dillard podcast. Till next time, we'll see you later.